Welcome to Magic Arcanum. I'm Ryan Gomez. Behind the scenes is Nicole Letson, and we are so glad you're here because it's story time. Teferi is the face of Core Set 2021, but he has been referenced on cards as far back as Mirage in 1996. That's a lot of history we could cover. But since this is Flavor Win, we're going to focus on some of the more recent stuff and see how much of it we can cram into one deck. But first, a big thank you to all of our patrons and everyone who was a vocal supporter of Flavor Win in our first video with Boss Riquette. This is a really fun way to share the stories behind the cards, but we couldn't do it without you guys cheering us on. Okay, so who is Teferi? Where does he come from? And why is he so seemingly good, yet so seemingly hated by the Magic community? As always, we'll start with the basics. Teferi is a human planeswalker from Dominaria. He is centered in blue mana, although sometimes he does also use white, and he is a chronologist. That means he uses magic to control or affect the flow of time. So that explains his new card in M21, Teferi, Master of Time. This is the latest in a long string of cards that attempt to capture the feeling of messing with time in the game, either by letting you cast or activate things when you normally could not, or by stopping your opponent from casting or activating things when they normally could. Like all the rest of the mono-colored planeswalkers in M21, Teferi has a special card frame to highlight the locations and spells that are key to his story. And since those are going to be the backbone of our Flavor Win deck, we're going to take a closer look at them. Teferi's Ageless Insight. So one of the fun things about the Magic story is that some of the characters are impossibly old by our standards. Teferi himself is over 1,000 years old, and that gives him a very different perspective on things than somebody like Jace, even though they are both blue planeswalkers. This card represents Teferi's keen mind and how he's able to approach problems from an angle most other people probably wouldn't even consider. Even though most of those approaches end up with him saying, "Let's slow things down." Anyway, Teferi's protege. This human wizard is a student at one of the Tolarian Academy schools on the plane of Dominaria, just like Teferi was many, many years ago. In his youth, though, Teferi was not exactly a member of House Ravenclaw, if you get my mixed metaphor. He was a smart and capable student, don't get me wrong, but most of his efforts were focused on pranks, and sometimes he was a bit of a bully to the other kids, but he did grow out of that, eventually. Teferi's tutelage. See, I told you he'd outgrow it. By this point in his life, Teferi has mastered time, and he now shares what he knows with the younger generation of students at Tolarian Academy. I'm not clear how learning something new causes your opponent to mill cards, but since this is going in the Flavor Win deck, I guess we're going to have to figure it out. Lastly, there's his island, which is a part of the landscape of Dominaria. During the Phyrexian invasion, Teferi used his magic to protect a portion of Dominaria called Zhalfir by phasing it out of existence. Unfortunately, he was unable to bring it back, and the empty space where the land once stood is now known as the Zhalfiran Void. In addition to those cards, there are several others in Core Set 2021 that have a relationship to Teferi. Now, I don't have room for all of them in today's deck, but they are still worth talking about because they give us some extra insight into Teferi's character. Mangara, Joriel, and Kaervek. These three were attracted to an energy surge created by Teferi when he was practicing his phasing magic on a nearby island. Ultimately, that led to the Mirage War, which was fought over the continent of Jamura, Teferi's homeland. Phasing was a big part of Mirage in 1996. Several creatures had it as a downside to their larger stats, or it could trigger special abilities, like in the case of Teferi's Imp. While those permanents would phase in and out every turn, it seems the future of phasing is going to be limited to a single turn, like we find on Teferi Master of Time's -3 ability. Baron, Tolarian Archmage. He was a teacher at the Tolarian Academy, where Teferi studied as a boy. The two of them appeared together on the card Confiscate from Urza's Saga. Subira and Niambi. There was a point during Teferi's very long life when he attempted to settle down with a caravan trader, that's Subira. and they had a daughter together. That's Niambi. But because Teferi aged more slowly than either of them, eventually Sabira passed away, and Niambi grew to resemble, Teferi's own mother. But he will probably always see her as his little girl. Teferi has been a student, a teacher, and a family man. He has seen his share of wars, fighting both the Phyrexians and Nicol Bolas. He is friends with some of the other biggest names on Dominaria, including Karn, Joyra, and Jaya, and he is presently a member of the Gatewatch. In the Basri video, I quipped that as a paladin, Basri was lawful good. I'm not an expert on alignments, but I think Teferi would be chaotic good. Someone with the ability to manipulate time is always going to be breaking some established rules, even if they have pure intentions. So that leaves us with who would play Teferi in a live-action magic movie. Idris Elba gets brought up a lot, and indeed the resemblance is there, but my vote is LeVar Burton. I think he has the whimsical charm and the ability to smoothly explain time manipulation, thanks to all of his practice with Star Trek technobabble, that the part really needs. Plus, Nicole is a huge Trekkie, so any chance I get to make her squirm with excitement, I gotta take it, right? Okay, so that's about it for the front half of this one, but I do have some more Teferi trivia mixed into the deck tech for the second half of Flavor Win. So I hope you stick with me while I boot up Arena, because this should be a fun time. Get it? Time! Ha-ha! Okay, here we go. Alright, here's the deck I have for Teferi Flavor Win. I'm calling it Jamura Draw, or Drawmura, maybe? It's a working title. Okay, so I was looking at the Teferi cards, and a lot of them kind of focused on like mill, and I had a mono blue mill deck. I just didn't really like it. It wasn't very fun. I didn't think it'd be exciting. So I kind of challenged myself to come up with something else. And the other thing I noticed about all of the Teferi cards is that they draw you cards. So then it was a matter of finding payoffs. And we found a really cool one in Jolriel, who is from Jamura, which is where Teferi is from, and they were friends while he was there. So I thought that'd be an excellent card to build around for our Flavor Win deck. So Jolriel, whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a 2/2 green cat creature token. That's perfect because Teferi, where'd he go? Right there. For his +1, you get to draw a card, then discard a card. So that counts as drawing a card. So the two of them together work pretty good, and I thought it would make for a good core to this deck. So let's look at the rest of the cards. We're going to start with Opt, 4 copies of that. Notice that we have Teferi in the art, so that's perfect. We have 1 Contentious Plan. This is technically from Ravnica, and Teferi was there, so that kind of counts. But the ability to proliferate is really helpful on our Teferi, and drawing a card is also helpful for Jolriel. 4 Ominous Seas. There was something funny about 4 shadow counters being in a deck that has like a time theme to it. As we can see later on, sea creatures are also going to be kind of a sub-theme here, and this one also works with drawing cards. So this, along with Jolriel, are our 2 kind of payoff cards for all the card draw that we have. Then we've got some Elite Instructors. I'm pretending that these are like transfer students. They're from Theros, but we can pretend they're part of the Tolarian Academy where Teferi is. They enter the battlefield, they draw a card, then discard a card. So that still counts as drawing a card. Not the best way to do it, but we'll take it. Teferi's Protege, we have to put at least 1 of all the Teferi signature cards in here. This is probably the worst out of our 3 mana spells, but we gotta have at least 1. Although in a pinch, we can use the activated ability to draw a card and maybe trigger Jolriel or advance our Ominous Seas. Teferi's Tutelage, again, it does enter the battlefield and draw a card, which is important. The mill part of this we are pretty much ignoring, although I guess in a really long game, this could be a backdoor to victory, so we'll keep an eye on it. Baron, Tolarian Archmage. So this guy knows Teferi. He's from the Tolarian Academy, and that works out great. He's really kind of like our emergency reset button. If there's a threatening creature out there that we need to get rid of, he can bounce it, or we can bounce our own creature, maybe the Elite Instructor, and then replay it so we can get another card draw if we desperately need it. So he's kind of flexible, and I like it a lot. Our other 3-drop is Llanowar Visionary. Llanowar is part of Dominaria. Teferi is from there, so he certainly knows about Llanowar. I don't know if he's ever actually been there. These guys enter the battlefield and draw a card. Again, super great, so we're going to keep the full playset of those. Capture Sphere. So when Teferi was younger and a student at the academy, he was involved in an accident which trapped him in a bubble of slow time. He was in there for like 10 years, I think. So this card is kind of our reference to that. We're going to capture some opponent creatures in a bubble of slow time where they don't get to untap. So that's our only 2 pieces of real removal in the deck. We do have a single rewind. I thought, again, this would be kind of a fun Teferi-ish card, although I think that's actually Baron in the art, which still works. And Rewinding Time kind of fits with this whole mystique. I didn't want to put too many counterspells in here, but if we catch our opponent getting greedy and they haven't seen us play a counterspell yet, we might be able to nab something important with this, so that's fun. Teferi, Master of Time, of course, the centerpiece of the deck, 4 copies. Everything on this card is great, as I hope that I get to show off in the gameplay, but we'll see. Teferi's Ageless Insight, just 1. It is legendary enchantment, and if you would draw a card, except for the first one you draw, in each of your draw steps, draw 2 cards instead. I don't know how useful that's going to really be, but again, I was committed to running at least one of every of the signature cards. Solemn Simulacrum. So I wanted to put Karn in here because he is also friends with Teferi, but then you have to build a whole sideboard full of artifacts, and it becomes more of like a Karn deck, and I really only had about 1 slot left. So I thought putting Solemn Simulacrum in here could kind of represent Karn if you squint enough, you know, maybe that's him. But it can help us fix our lands a little bit, and it can draw us a card when it dies. So some synergy with the deck there, and it's just a fun little way to kind of have a nod to another character. The Tolarian Kraken is in here, threatening the school. It also has a slight payoff for drawing cards, and it's just kind of a nice bigger body in case we need to punch through something smaller. That's kind of good. And then a single Discontinuity, which has some hilarious effects if we time it right. And again, it fits with the time manipulation kind of theme of Teferi here, so that felt like a flavorful fit. We've got some basic lands, islands, and forests. These are the Mirage arts as kind of a nod to Teferi's first kind of appearance within the story. And this is kind of, you know, supposed to be Teferi's island here and Jolriel's jungle forest kind of a thing. So that is the deck. I'm really excited to see how this one does. Let's go check it out. All right, here we go with Teferi Flavor Wind. We've got 3 forests, a bunch of blue spells, and an elf. Not super great, but we do go first. You know what? Let's keep it. Let's play dangerously. This is Flavor Win here, right? And by saying that, I don't mean we have to have Teferi on the battlefield to count as a Flavor Win. If the deck wins at all, that's a Flavor Win, because the deck was super flavorful to begin with, so, you know. All right, we got Andrew C. as our opponent, rocking the fearsome Gideon avatar, and the Ikoria cap. So he's taking his sweet time here, but once things get going, I think we're off to a great start for this episode. All right, dropping that forest. Andrew, it's the first turn of the game, Andrew. Don't do this to me, Andrew. Andrew, do I have to give you a hello? Oh, nope. We have Ravnica Plains. Okay. Well, we're pretending it's a great... Ooh, we could cycle our seas. Yeah, that's probably fine, because we're not going to be using that anytime soon. Oh, I should have done that on their turn. I'm going to get grilled in the comments. At least now we know we have an island next turn. All right. All right, not the best play, but it's early in the day. You know, I just woke up. We have mismatched art for our planes and a Pride Mate and another island. So let's get that. Do we tutelage here? No, we gotta find some actual action, so we'll use the elf. Capture Sphere could be great if this thing gets too big to deal with. When this thing gets too big to deal with, let's be honest. I have no way to stop it before it gets any bigger. Tranquil Cove to gain a life. All right. And a Griffin Airy. Huh. Well, I do not think we want to give up our elf. Although we might just be... Ooh, there's our man of the hour. All right, another island. So do we just play him? I think so. I think this is fine. And we'll tick him up. And now we probably have too many lands. I don't think we need the forest. So this time we will block with the elf and try to keep Teferi alive as long as possible. Or at the very least block him for one turn and then sphere the Pride Mate if we need to. Andrew, considering which another art basic land to drop next. Nope, we have a Heliod. Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay. I don't think we want to phase that out. I think we will instead first tick up. I don't think Teferi's Ageless Insight's going to be much help to us here. And yeah, we want to keep damage off of Teferi. Ooh. Alright. So we can play Jolriel. We can now +1 Teferi, draw a card. That's our second card for the turn. Discard probably Tutelage, I guess. Play the island. We could use Contentious Plan or drop the Instructor. I think getting more bodies down as blockers is probably better. This kind of wastes the extra draw. But we're fine. We got Baron now. Alright, opponent's only on 3 lands. If they can't get some momentum here, we might actually be in okay shape, especially if we can get Teferi all the way up for his super time abilities. Attack with the Pride Mate. Well, again, we're not going to phase it out. Let's just get some more information about what's coming. Another copy of Teferi. You know what, though? I don't think we need that. Famous last words by Ryan Gomez. Moment of heroism. Okay. Doesn't fly or anything. So we will just block and protect. Now, if he had waited until I double blocked, I was going to probably double block. He could have eaten 2 cards, but... But now we do have a flyer. That could be a problem. No, we could just bounce it. Haha, kidding. All right, but first, we're going to use Teferi again. Master of dad jokes. Andrew, you got to give me priority back, buddy. Andrew. Andrew! Not a lot to think about here, man. Did you disconnect? No. Alright. Do we need another island? Nah. We will use Baron. Get the token out of here. And tell you what, we will even use Contentious Plan now. Yeah. Alright. So if we can keep Teferi alive... I'm going to hold this forest so I have something to discard when I use Teferi's +1 on their turn. Okay, so they do have some lands that match and some that don't. I love Magic Arena. You meet the most interesting people. Excuse me. All right, Linded, sure. Which makes Heliod come to life. Okay, so the good news is we can certainly block all their attackers. Yep. Yep. And they gain some more life, which is also fine. It's going to make some people bigger, but it doesn't really matter. They're all getting blocked. Alright, well, I always like to do this before combat, just for some reason. Yeah, we can ditch the land. Alright. Block. Block. Alright, so we're at 10. We could take 2 extra turns after this one, or we can go up 1 more and then activate that on their turn, but then they do get a turn. I think I'd rather do that and keep Teferi alive. Since we already discarded one. Draw another card. We will discard a land. We'll make a cat. If Andrew will let us. Okay. So well, we can hold on to that because it's got flash. All right. I don't think I want to attack with anybody yet because we're not getting past Linden. So we'll say no attacks. We'll end the turn. Andrew once again considering all the possibilities granted to him by the Tranquil Cove. So he must be holding something that's an instant that costs a single mana. And he's got blue, but we haven't seen any blue cards yet. So what is that for? Is it just for the life gain? Could be just for the life gain, right? Gideon's Company. Whenever you gain life, put 2 1/1 counters on Gideon's Company. Yeah, man. You can have that. So Linden is whenever a white creature you control attacks. So even if we capture Sphere her, the others still do get to attack. If we capture Sphere Heliod, if he ever loses Devotion, then the Sphere drops off. So we will just lock down Pridemate. Gives 2 attackers. So this is interesting. So we can actually, we could +1 Teferi again and opt and get another cat. But we don't really need it. We can use this cat and Baron to block. But then we have no attackers ourselves for our 2 free turns. Oh my gosh. Enough triggers. Yeah, I'll just block. We'll do a cat. Sorry, Baron. I guess I don't really know how we're going to actually win this because these creatures are getting super duper big. And now we have a way to destroy an enchantment. Sure. Sure. Let's take 2 extra turns. Ooh. Let's draw. And get rid of that. Let's use Baron to get her out of here. Let's use our Instructor. Another Jewelry Elf. Don't need that. We're not going to attack into a 7/7. Start our next turn. Tap out for Kraken? Yeah, he seems alright. Probably still not going to attack into a 7/7. Start our 3rd turn in a row. Yeah, we'll pay to tap down that now. Draw yet another card. Ooh. Probably don't need the island. We're going to
decline this time. There's nothing else to tap. We get to crash in for a ton of damage. Although they've been gaining so much life, it doesn't even matter. And now we can hold on to both of these. Oh, we've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 left, so... Oof. Well, no, we can tap both of them. Totally fine. Not a problem. That's a problem. Well, no, we still have 1 cat to block. So we're still fine. Also fine. This is fine. This is the most fine we've ever been. Alright, so before attacks, we are going to opt. I'll take another Baron, sure. We drew a card. So we'll pay 1. We'll tap that. Yep. We will activate Teferi +1. Draw a card. I guess we can discard Baron. Yep. And again, tap that. Yep. And then we don't even have to worry about Heliod. Come on. Come on, face the music, man. It's Teferi Power Hour. We're doing all the time-bendy, wibbly-wobbly stuff. We're so close to a flavor win here. I can feel it. We are just... Yeah, okay, pay. And that will quiet you down for a turn. Yep. Okay, you have no attacks to make. We get to draw. We'll pay. Tap her down. Yeah. We will plus Teferi. Probably don't need the island. Pay. Tap you down, bird. And let's see, how much is this? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. It's gonna be really close. I don't think it's quite lethal, but let's see. So 4, that's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 16. Oh, it might be exact. It might be exact. This is why I don't do the math. It's more exciting if I don't actually count it. Don't you count it at home either. Andrew, did we just flavor win you? We did! That's a flavor win! Teferi, draw Mura! Oh, I love it. What a cool deck. That was a pretty long one. I think we're just going to stop there. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments what you think. This format is really cool. I love making the stories and the decks work together. But the rules I've just kind of come up with by myself. You know, I'm including at least one of every one of their signature cards. Does that make sense? Should I be forced to do more or not forced to include them? Should there be some sort of budget constraint here? I don't know. Let me know what you think down in the comments. What do you think about Teferi Master of Time and all that good stuff? I can't wait to work on the next one of these for you. So sit tight, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like this video. You don't want to miss the great stories you'll only find here on Magic Arcanum. We'll see ya!